Hello, this is Marcus Davis, Integrella. Welcome to this screencast where we're going to demonstrate how to configure a group of activities to use error handling in TIBCO Designer. This video is part of our SOA and BPM Integration Architect series aimed at architects, managers and designers embarking on TIBCO projects. So as I said, in this exercise we're going to demonstrate some basic exception handling using groups. And to save some time, we're going to use an existing process definition that we created in the XML transform exercise, and if you've not seen the screencast on that exercise, I encourage you to go back and have a look. But you might have noticed that when we're actually configuring the activities in that exercise, there were a number of exceptions that could have been thrown by each of these activities here, and we didn't do anything to trap those. So what I'm going to do is just to create a group or a scope around those activities, and we're going to log any errors in a consistent way to the log file. So let's create a write to log activity and create a transition from that group and through to the end of the process definition. Worth noting that what you'll have to do is click on the transition and set the condition type to be error. And now we're going to actually write an error log statement. So in the error message, I just want to kind of write a basic message to say an error has occurred, and it's probably useful to include the payload that was read in from the message, and also any details of the error message and perhaps the stack trace as well. You'll notice that there are a number of kind of error data structures here on the input side. And there's a generic one here which we're going to use, but each of the activities that can throw an error has its own individual one, and that's really if you want to, rather than use a group, map an error from each individual activity. But I think it's a bit cleaner really to use the kind of generic error. So let's set up the message, and to do this we're going to use a string concat function and initially add some basic text. So as I said, I'm going to print out the message payload for a start, and that's available from the read file activity. So as you can see, that's now configured. And let's now set up the error message and also the stack trace. So that's the error message mapped. And now let's just map the stack trace. And that looks correct, so we'll apply those changes. Apply again and validate, and now we can save the project. So now we're ready to run this in the TIBCO tester, and I'm going to, before I actually run this project, I'm going to cause a failure to parse the XML. So to do that I'm going to throw in a spurious character into the input message, and I'm going to change it so that the trade date is now trade date X, and that should be enough to cause a failure. There you go. You can see it was green until it got through to parse XML, and now it's logged a failure. So what we're going to do is look at the console, and you should see that the message came in, an error occurred while processing the trade, the message payload is displayed, and also we have the error message, which is that it received a trade date X element, but it expected trade date. We've also got the stack trace, which can be very useful sometimes. Now, just to show you something a little bit further on this, we're going to this time make it parse the XML correctly, but when it actually tries to write to the file system, we're going to make it throw an error. So I'm going to change the file back so it will marshal this time. And in order to cause a failure here, I'm just going to set the directory to write to the X drive, which doesn't exist on my machine. So let's run that again. And as you can see, as I expected, it failed to write to the settlement system, and a log should have been generated in the console. So here we go, an error occurred while processing the trade. Here's the payload again, and it says that X program data was not found. And what it really means is just that it wasn't able to write to that directory. While we're on the subject of error handling, it's worth noting that if you didn't want to use groups, you can also perform catch-all exceptions in a process definition, or indeed you can catch individual named exceptions. You can also throw your own exceptions in a process definition, which can be useful particularly if you're calling out subprocesses. So thanks very much for listening, and please send any feedback via our portal at portal.integrella.com.